Welcome today to the Canadian Museum for Human Rights, right here in Winnipeg, Manitoba. My name is Carly, and behind the camera we have Scott. Hi, Scott.
Hi.
Like many of you across Canada and the world today, I'm usually working from home these days, but I got special permission to be here today to share with you a little bit about what we do at the museum. At the museum, we talk about human rights. We talk about the fact that we all have different perspectives and ideas on what that means. But we want to come together and share one another's stories to learn about those different perspectives and ideas, in the hopes that we are going to gain an understanding and respect for one another's ideas. And through dialogue, we can move forward into a better life together. Let me show you one very important statement we have here in the museum. Along the back wall, you can see this declaration here, and it might be familiar to some of you. Let me read it to you. It says, "All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights." Did you recognize it? It's from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, written in 1948. And it expresses some very common ideas and values across peoples of the world. Ideas like freedom and equality, things that we all want to live a better life. And we keep that in mind as we explore through the gallery, these ideas about human rights. I'm bringing you forward into a really important gallery, one that's very popular for many people. It makes a very important connection to nature. Every time I come in here, I feel it's welcome, warm, and inviting. It's called Indigenous Perspectives. I'd like us to take a look out through the window here. You can see past this beautiful ceremonial terrace into St. Boniface and the surrounding area that the museum is on. It's a National Historic Site called the Forks. And I'd like to recognize now that this place called the Forks, these are ancestral lands for Indigenous people since time immemorial. It's actually been a meeting place and a gathering place for Indigenous peoples. And when there were archaeological excavations before the museum was built, there were thousands, hundreds of thousands of artifacts testifying to the fact that this has been an important place for Indigenous peoples. As a matter of fact, a really cool thing that was found was this moccasin footprint of a person who walked here about 750 to 800 years ago. It really serves as a good reminder for those who have gone before us. And along this panel, I really want to point out to you someone who's important right here in Canada, but especially in Manitoba. His name is Luriel, and he is a Métis leader. He became a great human rights defender for Métis people, and in fact, everyone who was living around in the Red River Valley area. And the actions that he took really led to the creation of Manitoba in 1870, and we're celebrating that 150 years this year. His provisional government that guaranteed rights for so many of the people living here at the time remind us that he actually was our first premier. One of my favorite parts of this gallery is the spirit panels, and I like to encourage people of all ages to take a spirit panel walk with me. This actually is an initiative in partnership with the National Association of Friendship Centers. In sharing circles, an elder, an Indigenous artist, and Indigenous youth in communities across Canada came together to have conversations about their visions and ideas and concepts of human rights. And each province and territory is represented here. So if you want to come with me, why don't we have a little geography lesson together? Do you know your Canadian geography from east to west? The westernmost is over here, so let's start here. Maritime provinces. If you live in this province, you might know it. It is Newfoundland and Labrador. Following closely, Nova Scotia. Our smallest province, Prince Edward Island. And the last maritime province, New Brunswick. Then we come into one of our largest provinces here. Take a look at the writing, might give you a hint. It's Quebec. Followed by Ontario. And one I admit I'm partial to, Manitoba. Another prairie province, Saskatchewan, and then Alberta. And on the west coast you find British Columbia. Then continuing on up north, we have Yukon Territory, Northwest Territories, and finally Nunavut. Now the theme and the discussion that we want to bring to you today really focuses and centers on hope. All of these messages that they shared with us are about hope, are about community, resilience, respect, but especially in Manitoba, we see that front and center, that word, hope. It's actually written right here. Ruth Christie was the elder who helped lead the conversation circles in Selkirk Friendship Center, and Louis Ogema was the artist. He actually gave us the word for hope here in Anishinaabe and in Slavics in Ojibwe. And the youth wanted to bring forward some of those iconic symbols that were important to them. Here you see this in the circle, in the center, the Four Nations, and the infinity symbol that the Métis Nation use on their flag. There are also some motifs here, such as the wolf and the bear, which represent some sacred Indigenous teachings. When I look at all of these spirit panels, I'm really humbled, and I reflect upon what those messages mean to me as well. The idea of responsibility and connection that we all have together, this humanity that we share. And what can I do as to not only enjoy my human rights, but what is my responsibility to help other people enjoy and share in those as well. As we move out of this gallery, we pause to see this spectacular view, which is actually called the Hall of Hope. This was a vision of the architect. His name is Antoine Predock. And he meant it to be a guiding light for us, a journey of discovery from darkness to light. As we move through the museum, we're going to uncover many different stories of different human rights journeys. And this guides us along the way. You can see that the ramps are covered with a stone called alabaster. And inside, in behind, there are LED lights and reflective mirrors that give this luminous glow. For me, it evokes a sense of comfort and hope. And as a matter of fact, it can evoke those possibilities of healing along the journeys that we sometimes take. Alabaster was an important stone in ancient times. It was used to create containers called alabastrons that held healing ointments. It's a great way also to get your exercise. There's almost 800 meters from the bottom to the 7th floor. And if you like, from there you can actually take about 108 steps to visit the Israel Asper Tower of Hope, which gives a great panoramic view of our city. That said, if that doesn't interest you, that long walk, you can always take the elevators. I'd like to bring you now into the largest gallery at the museum. and it's called Canadian Journeys. As we move towards this gallery, you're going to be met with almost 70 stories, different Canadians from across all of Canada share their human rights journeys. Depending on who you are or were, where or when you lived, your human rights journey may be very different from your neighbors. Some of these stories talk about victories, and some talk about struggles. We encourage visitors to explore at their own pace and find connections, meaningful connections where they can really learn about those stories that may affect them in ways they have never even thought of. As we move forward into the gallery, on the back wall, we have a digital screen, 6 films. But we also have still images, and each one of them tells a real human story. You can explore them in our Insight stations. Behind us, there's also a theater with 2 films, and all around the perimeter, we have 18 alcoves that mark turning points in human rights journeys for people across Canada. One of the most popular attractions in this gallery is right in the center, and it's called the Lights of Inclusion. Why didn't you come in here with me? Oh, it's like magic. It actually reads your body heat from up above. It actually is a great way to spend a few hours with your kids if you want to be able to explore. It keeps them occupied. But when I think of Lights of Inclusion, it tells me this. We all have our circle. We all want our personal space. We all have our own ideas and perspectives about human rights. And you know, during this time where we're encouraged to practice social distancing, that can make sense. But you know what? We also need to come together. Scott, why don't you come join your circle here with me, just on the floor. So you see what happens when we choose to include one another in our circle of influence. That light gets bigger and brighter. We begin to share and to learn from one another. And if we were to have a larger gathering, you could actually begin to see all those barriers, those separations begin to dissolve. Together we're stronger. I think there's one particular story here today that maybe by now in Canada you are getting to be pretty familiar with, but I'd really like to share with you. It's so inspiring. And it's the story of Viola Desmond. Actually, my daughter just did a project on this. Yes, she did it, not me, even though I work here and brought her here to help research. Viola Desmond's story is one of courage and determination, even self-sacrifice, in order to face social injustice, racial inequality. And we as Canadians are all the better for it. Viola Desmond, she was an intelligent, successful, ambitious Black woman in the 1940s in Nova Scotia. She owned her own beauty salon and ran a beauty school for Black women who didn't have any other means to get professional education because of the institutionalized racism that existed at that time. So one day, this is what happened. Viola Desmond, she was on a business trip between Halifax and Sydney, Nova Scotia, and her car broke down in a little town called New Glasgow. So she took her car to the garage, and what are you going to do when you have a few hours to kill in a small town you're not very familiar with? She decided to go to the theater. So she went in and she bought a ticket for a seat, and she went and sat on the ground floor close to the screen. As a matter of fact, her sister Wanda told us that she had forgotten her glasses in the car. She needed to see up close. But then what happened was the theater management came and told her that the ticket she had bought was actually for the balcony. Well, Viola went back to the ticket office and asked to buy a ticket for the ground floor. And that's when she had to confront that racism that existed, that hidden segregation that actually was going on in Canada against Black people. She was told that they weren't allowed to sell tickets to people like her. And so that's when she knew that she had a choice to make. I don't think that when Viola Desmond woke up that morning, she thought that she was going to be facing a life-changing decision. I don't think any of us really wake up thinking that today I'm going to change the world. But Viola Desmond, she actually did. She decided at that point she was going to face head-on that inequality, that injustice. And so she actually went and sat back down in her seat. And it was at that point that the management actually came in with a police officer. They took Viola Desmond out of the theater. She was arrested and thrown in prison. And even when she faced the courts, they would not admit that there was any racial motivation behind this. Do you know what she was charged with? No, it wasn't even causing a public commotion. Tax evasion. That was the difference in price between the ground floor and the balcony. I can hear them saying the same thing in the film at the same time. Well, this news really mobilized the community. They were indignant. They knew the injustice that was going on. And so people came together to support Viola in her legal battle, in her battle for human rights. But even on appeal, unfortunately, Viola, she lost her legal battle at the time. And she did pay a price, because sometimes when we want to stand up for what's right, it takes a lot of effort and we may have to pay a price. But fortunately, her story and her experience continued to inspire and mobilize people to continue to fight against injustice in Canada. And thankfully, by the 1950s, there were laws that were put in place to ban this type of segregation. So thank you, Viola Desmond, for the work that you did. Unfortunately, it took a long time for us to recognize this. As a matter of fact, her story was only recently uncovered and rediscovered, and she finally received an absolute pardon in 2010 from the Lieutenant Governor of Nova Scotia. And today, she's honored all across Canada as the face of our new $10 bill. Notice how it's in portrait mode? I love that. Oh, hey. Maybe you have one of these right now, somewhere in your pocket. An unexpected, pleasant surprise at the unveiling was the fact that our museum right here, the Canadian Museum for Human Rights, was featured on the other side. I'm constantly reminded when I come into this museum and when I see stories like Viola's, that we each have an ability to make a difference in the world, whether it be a small decision or a large decision. We each have the opportunity to take action, to look around and to see how can we help others? How can we make the world a better place? And so I think about the way that we today, as we're facing together these new challenges, can promote human rights by thinking about the fact that we all have and desire that right to life, to health, to safety, and to compassion. So if you want to help make a difference, just take a look around and take a step towards towards human rights and towards helping your fellow Canadians, and even those people around the world that you may not actually be able to physically touch, you can reach out to them virtually. Well, that's actually the end of our brief mini tour at the museum. If you liked what you saw, you can comment. You can follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. We'd like to hear your comments, your thoughts, and your questions. And you know what? We have a lot of extra stories and resources that you can explore on our website at humanrights.ca. If you want to learn more, just visit us there anytime. Thank you for coming today. I've been so privileged to be here, and I hope to see you soon. Take care.